Folks, I am back. Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach podcast. And the regular season is about to begin. The preseason is finished. So I want to give you some final thoughts about what I think about this roster and where we might be headed this season with the Toronto Raptors. But I have not done an episode in about a week and a half. And I want to tell you, I went back to Pittsburgh before I get into all of this stuff. I go to Pittsburgh every year to go watch some NHL and NFL. And I gotta tell you, man, I gotta drop a bomb for the city of Pittsburgh once again because games were fantastic. NFL game they played the Cleveland Browns this past game that I went to, and let me tell you, the tailgate was wonderful. We met some wonderful people from Pittsburgh and also from Cleveland who came up from the game. There was actually like four busloads of people that came up from Cleveland to watch this game. But I do have to drop a bomb for the people as well, because every year that I go there just gets better and better and better. The people, the atmosphere, the music, the food, the tailgate, the game, everything was absolute. And the family who comes out there, the friends, there's a whole group of just amazing, just absolutely amazing. So I got to show some love for the city of Pittsburgh first before we get into it. But now that that's out the way, now that that is out the way, please let's talk a little Toronto Raptors here. Okay. Now, as I mentioned to you before, the preseason has come to an end. We're about to enter into the regular season. And I do have a few questions here, ladies and gentlemen, as I put out some of these highlights from the last preseason game against the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I don't know if I really have to talk big numbers and all that kind of stuff because we know who does what on this team already, even though Scottie Barnes did pretty much go berserk. And so, you know what? Let me bring up those numbers at least. And with that being said, he's the first person that I want to discuss when it comes to everything that I want to talk about. Let's start off here with Scottie Barnes. Okay. Now, to me, Scottie Barnes is that engine. Scottie Barnes is the guy you're going to have to depend on a lot on both ends of the floor. And I can't say that about everyone. He played 35 minutes in this game, 10 of 15 from the field. He had 31 points. He had 6 rebounds. He had 4 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. Now, you're probably not going to see 31 points a game from Scottie Barnes, but damn it, he's going to put points on the board. He's going to get rebounds. He's an unselfish player. He's going to get you assists. He's going to be all over the place. He's going to be all over the place. So you have to expect that from Scottie Barnes. You got to expect that. But what I want to know is he going to be aggressive every game? Because that's what the Raptors are going to need out of him. He cannot be passive. He has to be somewhat of a bully at times. That's what we need from him. He needs to insert himself and insert himself quickly. His presence has to be felt and felt early. You're going to need that out of Scottie B. And I mentioned this to you before. The Raptors are going to need wins early. They're going to need wins early. And so I want to see him progress as a leader. I think he did a decent job of that last year, even though I've mentioned to you on multiple occasions that you can't judge anything by what you saw last year. But he didn't complain and whine about the calls and all that kind of stuff as much as he's done in the past. He didn't do that as much as he did last year. This year, what he has to do is the rest of the guys got to learn by example. He's been put into a position where he is being looked at as a leader. There's a lot of responsibility that's going to come with that. Now, he does have other pieces that are going to make the game a little bit easier for him this year, notably Brandon Ingram. But yes, you still do have a Jakob Poeltl, and you have a Quickly and a Barrett, and those guys are going to help you have a decent bench, at least in my opinion. Most of the NBA won't talk about the bench because they don't watch the Raptors. They don't know what these young pieces could do. But I think Scottie B will have some help there in totality when you look at the starters and the bench unit. I'll talk about them just a little bit more later on, but I want to see him continue to progress as a leader. That is going to be big for me on both ends of the floor, offense and defense. Defensively, get into passing lanes, block some shots, alter shots, get up in guys' grill, play smart, don't reach all the time, no cheap fouls, none of that stuff. This is where it's going to be crucial. Where it's going to be crucial that you lead by example. It is a must here. You don't want anybody being able to point the finger at you and saying, oh, look at him slacking off that play. Look at him dragging his ass back up the court after a bad shot attempt from him or one of his teammates. You don't want any of that. No excuses here. This is a time where you got to put up or shut up. And Barnes, you got to step up to the occasion. I believe you will, by the way. I believe you will. And there's a lot of people at this point. You're going to have to You're going to have to quiet them. You're going to have to quiet them. Period. And so I want to see you step up to the plate, take the challenge, and let's see what happens. To me, I wonder now, and I'm not sure this is Scottie Barnes or maybe one of his teammates, but to me, there is an identity issue. And I don't know. Every year the Raptors come into the season, I have the same damn question, and I don't figure it out. What is the identity of this team? Is there somebody on this roster that, if need be, will take on the role of being the bad guy? I'm being serious about this. I want you to ask yourself that question when you hear me speak on this. Is there anyone on this team who's willing to be the bad guy?
This is completely BS. This is shame. Shame for the referees, shame for the league to allow this.
Damn it, Darko, it ain't no shame. To me, it's a necessary question. And so maybe I'll come back to that in just a little bit. Now, the second thing, defense. Playing smart defense. And I mentioned this already. The cheap reaching, the bad fouls, gambling on defense and gambling on passes and all that kind of crap. I don't want to see all that garbage. You have to lock in defensively. And communication is going to be the key. See, when it comes to sports, it doesn't necessarily always have to be that complicated. It really doesn't. You don't have to overcomplicate things all the time. If you understand and know the game, people have to be willing to communicate with each other, to be a unit defensively. Know where everyone is at all times, where the ball is at all times. Help side, strong side, whatever the hell the case is. You got to speak to each other. You got to know what the matchups are. You got to know when to give a hard foul here and there. You got to know these things. Transition defense. Transition defense is not just key for the Raptors. Damn it, with the way that the game is played today, it is key for all teams at this point. You got to get back in transition. You got to be able to find the guys running the lanes. You got to be able to find shooters. You have to. And if you can't do that, I'm not going to dwell on this, but if you can't do it, you're going to be in trouble. Depth. Depth. Depth is going to be key. You have many good young pieces. To name a few: Grady Dick, Shed, Ochai, Mamu, Walter, Colin Murray Boyles. You have pieces. Now, there will be times I do want to see the Raptors be able to pick up 94 feet. It's just a different ball game when you have players who are capable of doing such thing. It's important. It matters. When you can pressure guys, speed them up, cause them to make poor decisions, that is key. From a defensive scheme, I don't know what Coach Rajakovic has planned for these guys. A lot of man-to-man defense. If they can switch up seamlessly into some type of zone, matchup zone, full court press, 3/4, half court traps. I don't know what the hell the case is going to be here in regards to this. But I do want to see a different variation of defensive combos. That's what I want to see personally. And even if you don't do it often, I still want to know that you're able to do it if necessary. I still want to know you're able to do it if necessary. It's going to matter. We've talked about this many times. And this defensive group, when these guys coming off the bench, they have to have a certain level of grit. They got to be a little nasty. Like you
would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you that.
There's got to be a certain level of nastiness and grit with these guys when they come off the bench. There has to be. Get out and run. You're young and athletic. Run the floor hard. Now, these are my final thoughts before we go into the regular season, because I don't like to base too much of panic or too much optimism and all that kind of stuff strictly based on what we saw out of preseason basketball. Now, you can have a combination of the roster and what you think they'll be like from an offensive firepower degree or what they're going to be like defensively, but just basing it strictly off of preseason, I wouldn't go that far. But the Raptors do have a better roster than they had last year. They're under pressure to win games this year, by the way, as well. Masai Ujiri is not here anymore. He is gone. You are dealing with Bobby Webster at this point. And I do want to say this. So the Raptors did waive Orich Chamchi, AJ Lawson, that has now signed a deal again. Jared Rhoden, David Roddy, Olivier Sarr. So those guys have been cut. I did mention to you just now, AJ Lawson will be returning. But to finish this off, because I'm not going to make it long, but what is your identity? And to me, that is something that the Raptors always struggle with. What their identity is going to be. I don't know what that is. Now, maybe somebody can tell me in the comments if you believe you know what the Raptors' identity is planned to be. I don't know. I don't think you can really know until you have watched them for about 25 or 30 games. Now, if you want to cut that down a little bit, maybe 20, 25 games. But before that, I don't really know if you can tell what their identity is going to be. Okay? And I mentioned to you, keep your eye on Bobby Webster. There will be a certain amount of pressure on Bobby Webster. What it will be exactly in regards to, I'm not sure. Obviously, we know he has to win games. We do know that. But it's going to be interesting watching the decision making that he has to have. What his communication is going to be like with Darko, making sure they're on the same page. At some point, is he going to make any moves? Is there anybody that he is going to want to play over somebody else or showcase if he wants to trade that guy? There's a whole bunch of different scenarios here. We're just going to have to watch and see how this thing is going to play out. But if you've made it this far in this video, tell me if you think Bobby Webster is under pressure, or do you think everything is house money for him right now? And the last thing that I mentioned to you that I want to reiterate, get the wins early. For God's sakes. I'm not saying that at some point, wherever it may be in the season, whether it's after 15 games, 30 games, whether it's after 35, 37 games, I'm not saying the Raptors can't hit a stride at some point, and get to work and get busy and make some noise somewhere down the stretch. But if you can hit teams in the mouth early, when everybody is still trying to integrate and get things together, I think that would be a very good look for the Raptors. Okay, so listen, just some food for thought, people. Let me know what you think in the comments. Raptor season is going to kick off, I believe, on Wednesday night. They will be in Atlanta to go against the Atlanta Hawks. And listen, the Atlanta Hawks got a nice team. Luke Kennard is there now. Porzingis. You bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker on top of some of the nice pieces, obviously, that we know that they had last season. But it's going to be a very interesting season. I'm hoping the Raptors get to work and win some ball games. We've got to be in the playoffs this year. To me, it's a bad look if they don't make the playoffs this year, in my opinion, especially with the injuries that we see in the Eastern Conference. You got to be able to do just a little bit. I think top 6 is acceptable to say. A lot of people may argue that. Sure, there's no problem. You bring your arguments to me. You got an argument, bring it to me. I don't mind it at all. We can go back and forth and argue respectively. I don't do the childish stuff. I won't respond to any of that garbage. Okay, I don't waste my breath on any of that kind of stuff. But I will argue respectfully if you got something that you want to say. At Mike Roach 7, ladies and gentlemen, on IG. At Mike Roach 23 on X. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. Okay? And just please, do I have to tell you to like and subscribe? And don't be selfish. Share this with a friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with a coworker. Okay? Like, subscribe, share, and rate the podcast. And for everyone who has been following me, supporting me, trust me, thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you. Can't wait to speak to you again. Make sure you get in the comments, folks. It's time. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of things to talk about. A lot of things coming up with this NBA season, but it's your boy, Mike Roach. I'll be back again soon, and I'm out.